Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This guy over here is Tim, and this is Second Legacy, and thank you so much for stopping by. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to do a live show. This is one of my favorite things that we get to do on this program because we get to reach out and talk directly to you guys. So if you want to be on the show, there's a Google link form right down there in the description. Make sure you fill it out, and we'll see if we can get you on here as well. Now, make sure as we go through this, you like, subscribe to the channel, and also turn that notification bell on. We are looking to expand freedom across this great nation, and you can be a part of that, and we asked you to do that, and thank you so much for your consideration. But with that out of the way, we're going to say a quick word from our sponsor, LAS Concealment, and then we're going to get to our caller. And the content today is brought to you by LAS Concealment. And if you're in the market for a holster for your favorite freedom tool, LAS Concealment is worth a look. They have everything that you could imagine, all molded from Kydex to your said freedom tool. Everything is fit directly to that model for a superior comfort and safety. They have inside and outside the waistband options, multiple designs, all sorts of different colors, and they are tested by the world's most elite special forces. Make sure you check it out. There's a link in the description box below, and thank you so much to LAS Concealment for making this content possible. All right, so again, thank you to LAS Concealment. Let's get into this live call. We have Charlie. Charlie, thank you so much for calling in, taking the time. What you got for us, man?
Well, thank you guys for having me. I got to let you know that I love your channel. I watch your other channels. I love what you guys are doing for the Second Amendment.
Oh, thanks.
So basically, just to let you know, I'm from one of the most unfriendly 2A states. I live in New York. So
okay.
And my question is, and it's a kind of an open-ended question. So I'm not saying that I expect an exact answer, but we had the Bruin decision last year, and I was extremely excited about it. I was looking to, in New York, we got to have a permit for just to have a pistol, even in our home. And then I thought, well, I can finally upgrade this to carry it, to protect myself when I'm out and about. And of course, New York went into their temper tantrum and, did what they did. So how long do you think it will be until the Supreme Court says, enough is enough, and we're going to just strike down these laws because they're just unconstitutional? Because it just seems like we're always in this never-ending grind of waiting, and a person in a state like mine, that wait is always like, we basically can't do anything until these matters are settled. And I guess my other question is, real quick, what can 2A advocates who live in states like mine do? I know I can contact my congressman. He's pretty receptive, but you know who my senators are, and they're not very receptive. So I'm just curious what you think you can do.
Well, first of all, those are great questions. You want to start that bad boy off, Tim?
Yeah, it's hard to predict what the Supreme Court's going to do, and before we get a case before the Supreme Court, you got to find the exact right case, and the gun right groups, like GOA and FPC and those groups, they're always looking for those right cases, right? You got to have the right plaintiff, you got to have the right argument, and then you can try to get it to the Supreme Court, but you have to work your way through the circuit courts first, right? So you need to have standing, and you need to be able to have a case that you think you can win. So it's hard to predict when we're going to get a decision like the one that you were hoping that they would give us, where they would just erase, most of these asinine gun laws. But also keep in mind that over the course of the last 10, 15 years, we've seen the Supreme Court really come in, weigh in heavily on the Second Amendment. And we're seeing things like may issue versus shall issue being washed away. And now everybody is shall issue, in some states that passed concealed carry laws when all states were being forced to do it by the courts. They were implementing goofy laws like, basically, well, we can deny you a permit if we just don't like the way you look, or we don't like where you live, or we don't like what you do for a living. Basically, it was subjective. And now we see those same states doing away with that and being shall issue, which means unless they have a legal reason to prevent you from owning a firearm, they cannot deny you a permit to carry or to own a firearm. And so we are moving down that path. It's just a slow path to get there. And, But I'm confident that we can get there as long as we maintain the court makeup. But anything could happen. We could have the Democrats decide they want to stack the courts. They've threatened to do it many times. And if they do that, then we go through a period where we go the opposite direction. So,
well, there's an interesting piece as well, though, to kind of what you're saying. If you look at the sensitive cases stuff, that was like Charlie said was the temper tantrum stuff. I think that's a very good way to put it, because they threw the temper tantrum out, and look at what happened on the back end of that, right? Tim you're 100% correct that it takes time, right? But if you look at the sensitive places, and when that was pushed by GOA to the Supreme Court after the Second Circuit said, nah, fam, this ain't working out, then basically the Supreme Court came back and said, well, we can't really intervene. We've already ruled on Bruin recently. But the important thing is Alito and Clarence Thomas came down and said, you guys better fix this with haste, and you better figure out all the different nuances because we don't want to hear about this again for a while. But on the other side of that coin, and this is where it gets interesting, the Biden administration just recently submitted to the Supreme Court for the domestic restraining orders case and decision out of the Fifth Circuit to be overruled and undermined under the exact same grounds. So this is what's so fascinating is, to Tim's point, it takes so much time. But if you look at what's going on with the left being upset about one ruling and the right being upset about another ruling, I don't know, man. I can't really give you a time, but I think we're going to hear some clarification within the next couple of years. I don't know necessarily in the election cycle, but I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Tim? Election cycle or no election cycle? I mean, just rough, obviously.
I mean, I do agree with the current court makeup. They really have the anti-gunners scared to death, and that's why you see all these attacks on social media against Clarence Thomas and against Alito and against any of the conservative justices, because they see a weakness where they think they can get their foot in the door and convince the public that they're corrupt in some way or that they're a bad justice,
exactly right,
and that they can be impeached and we're going to take them out because the court stacking hasn't gone their way. And so again, they're so desperate, and you can see that in every news article that comes out where they discuss 2A issues. They are so desperate to do anything to reconfigure the makeup of the courts, to do anything they can to push Biden into executive orders that he doesn't have the authority to make. Anything you can think of. They are absolutely desperate, and we are moving in the right direction. I just want to keep this court as long as we can so we can get these decisions. I'm really worried that we're going to see one of the justices like Thomas retire, and that could change everything.
No. Long live Clarence Thomas. He won't do it.
I love Clarence Thomas, man. He is such a scrappy guy, man. He will not put up with their nonsense, dude.
That's
he
very
claps
true. And
back
Alito,
instantly.
Same way. Yeah, exactly right. So now I guess the next part of your question, Charlie, was a very important one. If you're behind that blue curtain, it feels extremely defeating because you guys are experiencing the more extreme brunt of gun control, while the right-leaning states are experiencing the freedom aspect and the minimization of infringement on the state level. So, Tim, you and I have talked about this a bunch, addressing his question, what can they do? For me, there's reaching out to your congressman, but that's in the short term. The long-term piece there that's so crucial is you have to be able to have conversations with people and bring them along to your point of view without immediately jumping to the out of my cold dead hands or over my dead body, because it's the extremity. It's when you have the ability to communicate without using the extremes, you can bring more people over. And that's essentially what's going to happen. More people have to get the culture shared with them from the culture itself versus necessarily, I mean, there's a part to play for everything. Like YouTube channels have a big part to play. Individuals have a big part to play. Congress has a big part to play. But this is a huge production that needs to be moving in a constant standard of, you don't mess with our rights, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever right it is, or whatever amendment it is. That's an incredibly important piece as well. I mean, Tim, what do you think about that? Do you think that's the right angle, or kind of a two-tier approach?
Absolutely. If you take a look historically at any, major movement, from the civil rights in the United States to suffrage for women in the United States to what Gandhi accomplished in India, everybody has to be involved in having those cultural discussions, right? As Braden said, if we just go out there and we say, stay off my rights, out of my cold dead hands, screw you, drop dead, we're ending the conversation right there, and we're just buttressing their view that we're a bunch of lunatics and that there's no discussion to be had. We just need to take the guns away, and so we can't do that. Everybody in the Second Amendment community has a responsibility to have these conversations and debates in a way that we can help sway public opinion, educate people, because most of the people that are anti-gun are simply ignorant of firearms. I don't mean that like in an insulting way, but ignorance is bliss. And it's very easy to take somebody that doesn't know anything about firearms, show them a picture of an AR-15 and say, this thing can shoot down satellites out of orbit and just this vicious, nasty weapon of war. And they go, oh yeah, look at that crazy looking thing. I don't even know how that works. Let's get rid of it. You shouldn't have that. It's all about educating and showing people, getting them out to the range and having those conversations on Facebook at family functions, whatever. Because the other aspect of it is being heavily involved with groups like Gun Owners of America and FPC and financially supporting them, because those are the ones that are going to bring the court cases that are going to change what you're dealing with in New York. So it's very nuanced, it's very subtle, but it's extremely important that we all take part in this effort, because we just can't sit back anymore. We can't. That's how we got to where we were.
It's exactly right. The last 100 years of sitting back and accepting has brought us to the point now where we have a chance to roll back another 100 years.
Dude, I remember, I remember the conversations in 1994 when Bill Clinton was trying to pass his bill, and people were in the gun stores, because we didn't have the internet back then, not to the degree we do today. People in the gun stores were saying, "Oh, it'll never happen. This is America. It'll never happen." They never happened it right into it's happening.
Yep.
They didn't do anything. They're like, "Yeah, we got the Second Amendment. It'll never happen." And that's how we lose our rights. You can't be that way.
Well, I mean, there's tons of examples of that. Just to kind of put a reinforcement on that, think of all the things that would never happen in Germany. It's the first world nation. It's the highest, most esteemed nation in the world in the 1920s. Yeah. Well, that went real bad real fast. Yeah. It's like the bliss, or the ignorance of it will never happen here will always lead to it happens there.
Almost guarantees it's going to happen at that point.
Almost guarantees, yeah, because it puts people asleep. But I mean, Charlie, I hope we hit those points in an acceptable fashion.
Yeah, no, that was great. I agree with the education piece. I mean, I have 2 children. I educate them all the time about the Second Amendment and our rights.
Yep.
Especially my daughter. She's a little bit older, and I know some of the stuff she comes home with from school. So, and then my dad, he was never a big 2A advocate. Now he is. So I agree. Good. You're right. That's the way to do it. And you're right. You have to do it with a poise and and you can't have that extreme view. You got to just basically be willing to talk to people. One thing I do to show people is in New York, we're allowed to own Ruger Mini 14s. So I show a picture of an AR-15 and a Ruger Mini 14, and I say they're basically the same thing. They are both semi-automatic weapons. They shoot the same caliber cartridge. So, one just looks different because it's plastic, it's black, it looks scary, and one doesn't. But at the end of the day, they function the same. And I've seen that change people's perception. They say, "Oh, really? Oh, wow." Because they look at the Ruger Mini 14, it looks like a classic, ranch rifle, with the cowboys used to carry, And
they didn't say just ban them both?
Yeah, exactly.
Seems to be the logic of the anti-gunners.
Yeah. I think a lot of the people I talk to, I think you're right, though. I think you have to hit the people who are in the middle, the people who, they're not sure either way. There's always going to be the group that you just never can talk to. I know that group. Trust me, in where I live, I know that group. I mean, good thing I'm not in New York City, so I will admit that, but I'm not that far.
Right. Well, they wear it on their sleeve, man. You can see them coming a mile away. It's like, I see purple and piercings.
Which when I was traveling into New York for my job, I used to see a lot of that. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I agree with you guys. And like I said, I appreciate what you do. I actually am a member of GOA. I actually reached out this year and became a member of GOA. I used to be an NRA member, but after all the stuff with them going on, I decided to reach out to somebody else, and I went to the GOA. So
there you go. Yeah, NRA needs some fixing, but hopefully one day.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we have great organizations like Gun Owners out there. Yep. Well, Charlie, thank you for calling in, man. What's that?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for letting me call in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we loved having you on the show. Thanks for calling in. If you guys would like to be part of the show, there's a link in the video description below. Follow that link, fill out the questionnaire, we'll get you on the show. You can ask your question or make a statement. We'll have a great conversation. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you guys soon.